Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Unfiltered Football Podcast, episode number 22 of this season. For season number one, of course. Leeds are falling apart again. They were singing a few weeks ago, but it isn't the case because after a very difficult start at the bridge, Stamford Bridge, not a good place for us in recent times. I think it's since the 90s that we haven't won a game there. Always a tough place to go for us, but absolutely we returned in style, and it felt like a victory, especially looking after post scenes, post match scenes, but the fans really rallied and carried and really thanked, the players for their efforts because that's the way we react and absolutely golden point for me. But before we talk about the game, we need to catch up with our man Lockie here. Of course, there's two games to talk about, but we will focus, of course, on the fresh one, the Chelsea one. But before that, you may remember from last week's episode, we were talking about the long-awaited return of Lockie to Elland Road for the Forest game. Man, you chose the Pickford game to return to the
Man.
church, to return to church as a faithful with your girlfriend too, So I was there
Yeah.
that night, I imagine it was over the moon, man, honestly, for you and her.
Yeah, oh mate, it's so good to be back. Having, just to clarify as well, tried every single home game, 17 in a row, not getting a ticket, and I managed to get a ticket. Although my girlfriend managed to get a ticket on her account via the ballot, but all tickets count, don't they? So yeah, it was, mate, it's just amazing. There's nothing better than that feeling, and taking her into that environment and that experience. I was a little bit nervous because I wanted it to be really good because it was her first experience of that. I didn't want it to be a poor atmosphere, but it were, considering the weather, which was miserable, by the way. It was horrible. Just, yeah, horrible weather. It was really good. The energy in the stadium was great. The the scenes and when we scored, oh, it was insane. She was getting battered. She was getting tossed about. She was getting thrown about. A hat came off her head and went a row back. We had to get that. Yeah, I was holding her to like protect her, but I was also moving her as well because you can't protect her fully. It's part of the experience, right? Getting chucked about at Elland Road. So it was that second goal, mate. When it went in, was probably one of the best,
What a
and that
finish.
it was that the relief from the crowd when that went in. The celebrations were insane. Annoyingly, the players, every time they scored at our end, they went to the other side, which was annoying. Come to the other side, But mate, it was great. It was really good. Always love being there. The second you kind of step in, then march on together starts, you always just get nervous and tingly. Nothing's going to change that, no matter what game it is. You hear the anthem and it's like, all right, okay, we're here now. And to experience that with my girlfriend was quality. It was really good day. Again, the weather ruined everything in terms of, not everything, but in terms of feeling cold and wet
Yeah.
the entire time. The thing is, like, it was fine during the game because you don't really remember it, but then afterwards, when you've got to walk back and it's just raining and you just cold and wet, yeah, it was horrible. But during the game, it was, no one cares about the weather. You're just in the game, you're watching it. One thing I will say about when you watch these players, obviously, I think you get a much more better perspective in terms of physicality and intensity of players when you're at the stadium. That's why it's important in scouting that it's good to watch video, but it's also good to see them live. Now, what I realized watching live in the second half, that our defensive line was basically in line with me a lot of the time. So Pascal Strauch is such an intense defender, really underappreciated how intense he is with a striker every minute. Even if the ball's at the other end of the pitch, he's always close. He's always aggressive. He doesn't give attackers a single second to breathe. And it really, really paid off for us. Rodon is what you'd expect. He covers Pascal really well. He works hard to get back. But in terms of that physical aggression, man for man, Pascal Strauch stood out for me. Aronson as well. I mean, you see it on TV, but when you're in the stadium, that work rate is genuinely stand out. It's so he's everywhere all the time. It's really impressive. It's really impressive. It's something that you don't get too much, and I've watched a lot of football, and his work rate and the intensity in which he does it and the
Yeah,
bravery is second to none. It's so impressive. If he had, 10-15% more consistency in the final third, he'd be playing high levels. But he's such a joy to watch. And the final one was Ampadu as well. I mean, he's just so good. He's just
yeah,
so good. Reading the game is ridiculous. He's always in the right place. Whenever there's a loose ball, whenever there's a ball in a certain area that can be dangerous, he's there. The second ball, he's there. Recovery runs, he's there. He plays the game at his speed. So yeah, that's the kind of, from watching the players, that's what I kind of got from it in terms of some physical aspects that maybe you don't see on TV. But yeah, apart from that, there was just a real confidence watching them play, real confidence. They believe in each other. They believe in what they're doing. Even if at times as a fan it might be a bit nervy, they believe. And I think that helps me believe a bit more at times. When it's nervous and we're sitting deeper, they truly believe in what they're doing. So yeah, it was
yeah,
great, mate. Great day.
yeah. It was from the telly, so I cannot imagine how it was live. But I can even imagine, because here on the telly you kept hearing, it was like, when you're on the seaside and you hear the sound of waves coming
Yeah.
at the shore, it was
Yeah.
something like romping up, cheering them, and honestly, it's breathtaking every time. So to see that live, it's there's like Mastercard, there's no price for that, like the ADV used to say,
Yeah.
honestly. But yeah, I'm glad you mentioned also Stroud, because I think against Chelsea going to the other game, um, we missed him, honestly, because there's not another centre back capable of doing and reading the game and also dictating the play from the back fastly, also because he's very fast to me when he moves the ball from one side to the other when the ball comes to him. He's very quick to make a decision with the ball. I think we really missed Raul Connors, to be fair. And of course, I had to watch the game back because it was another game here in Italy with Reggiana, because that for what I do, I have to watch basically every game. So the game was at the same time. When one finished, I managed to see on phone, the last 20 minutes, and see like I tuned straight away after the game finished and see Okafor celebrating us. And said, I went, yeah, and the others were like, what's happened? Yeah. So, but yeah, I had to rewatch basically the rest of the game after that. So yeah, I think we really missed Jauka there, honestly, because it was too defensive minded. I effectively have 5-4-1 with a wing back, because we had Justin and Gudmundsson, of course, but they were effectively playing in a back five, not in a back three, at the start of the game. Then you had Bogle, basically you had Justin and Bogle on one side, and Aronson, of course, trying to move freely there, but yeah, very block. And effectively, I think it changed a lot in the second half, when unfortunately Bornau had to go out with the ice on the bench. But yeah, Struijk, honestly, man, he's really underappreciated, and I think he deserves a call up from the Netherlands very soon, because he's playing. Remember, he was one of the players that was in the summer. People used to say, "Nah, it didn't work for him the last time in the Premier League.
Yeah.
We need to get another one. He's not reliable." Because people remember the last time he was in the Premier League, actually they broke him. They absolutely broke him after
Yeah.
Bielsa went.
Completely.
He struggled with fitness, I think, towards
Mm.
the final part of the Bielsa days. Then when March
Yeah.
arrived, Gracia, Allardyce absolutely didn't give him the tactical awareness that they needed to have, and I think Farke did that. He did that with many
Mhm.
players, like the awareness and the compactness that we shown against Forex, for example, also in other games. They work as a unit at the back. Uh, when it works, they're absolutely very solid. When it doesn't work, like it wasn't an oiled, established backline, with the Biol, Bornau, Rodon, Gudmundsson, and just was a new one, because you didn't have the traits that Strauk offers for you. They have two very similar players in Bornau and Gudmus and Biol, and they both did the same thing. They tended to go out of the line to be aggressive, and that's how the goals came from Chelsea eventually. Because the centre back was going out of the line, and we were leaving open gaps. There. So yeah, I'm glad that you mentioned Strauk because Strauk is really absolutely underappreciated for me. He's absolutely underappreciated. I'm not saying this because people say that. I don't see anything in that. Honestly, that he's like my doppelganger. I'm like very similar to him, but look at me. It's not true, by the way. But yeah, apart from Strauk, mate, honestly, how do you explain that? Of course, apart from injuries, how do you explain how we were set up in the first half compared to what led, I think, after the switch with Okafor coming on, led to be more involved in the game, be more present mentally too, because I don't think we're there mentally in up to that substitutions, to those substitutions. How do you explain that, honestly, to be fair? That switch that we had.
Well, again, similar to you, I missed the first half, 30 minutes of it because I was at work, annoyingly. So tried to get back as quick as I could. So I didn't see too much of the start, to be honest. But my girlfriend was watching it at home and she said it's not very great. It's one of them games that didn't feel good. That's her tactical deepness there. But no, she knows the offside rule, so that's all that matters. But yeah, no, I'm joking, obviously. I'm doing this if she watches.
Yeah, you better say that, man, honestly. Because it's not good to joke about the offside rule, with women.
Yeah, true. What even is the offside rule? None of us know. It's a nightmare. But yeah, sorry, I'll see question. I think just from watching it, a lot of times football, you just take it on what you see and what that feels like. You try and imagine you're there and what that's feeling like as a player. It just felt like there was nothing in terms of an idea when we got the ball back. When you're playing Chelsea, especially a Rossini Chelsea. Now, Rossini's teams attack with a lot of height. They absolutely love half spaces. They love forward passing. They don't waste a pass, right? That's the philosophy kind of thing. That's the idea. Every pass has a purpose. It's forward. It's into a gap. It's into a space. Look at Pedro. The entire 90 was constantly attacking behind the centre backs.
Yeah,
forward passes. That's what they do. It's good when it works. It looks really good. They're good at that. It's not just Leeds. They'll do that too. They'll do that to other teams as well. But again, they showed their frailties. Now, for us, I think we struggled to deal with that. At the end of the day, we've had some injuries. It's been a busy schedule. Let's not forget we've had probably two full training sessions to prepare for that game against a team that's newly formed. That's difficult. The more kind of sample size you have on a team, it's easier to prepare against. So it's always going to be difficult when they've got players like Cole Palmer, who on his day can be better than anyone. It's difficult. João Pedro's movement has always been very, very good. So I think we struggled to deal with it, just man for man, to be fair. I think they were a little bit sharper, which meant they had more of a hold of the game. We struggled to get involved in it. They were just moving it a little quicker. There were more purpose in their attacking play. But I think the sub of Okafor worked. Now, I think there's two sides to it. I think mentally, it just helped us kind of give us an attacking outlet, in which case that gives you confidence. And then when you're feeling confident, you think, all right, we can get something from this game. When you have so many defensive players, their mindset is defensive first, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
When you bring on an attacking-minded player whose mindset is, I want to create, I want to score, then suddenly you give the ball to him and you're getting forward. Then these defensive players have a little more confidence in the game. And I think that's what we saw. And the goal, for example, with Bogle is purely down to him wanting that ball. I absolutely love it. Forget tactics for a second. Football is a lot about hard work. And that goal is all on Bogle. 2 or 3 times, he didn't stop. People saying Chelsea's defending was terrible. Yeah. But if Bogle isn't putting them under pressure, they ain't doing that. I thought it was really impressive. We just gained a little more confidence. And we are a bit of a confidence team, I think, especially offensively. When we create a chance, then it's suddenly like, oh, we can do this. Oh, we can do this. Against better teams, by the way. Against teams around us, we're usually quite good, generally speaking. But against the better teams, we need a few moments. We need a 5-minute period. And then the game gets quite even. We saw it against City, of course, as well, earlier on against Liverpool. There's moments where these teams are battering us, and then suddenly one offensive player either comes on or gets into the game, creates a moment, and then we're seeing our natural defensive players then go, "Oh, we can get some here. These are not that much better than us." And then that offensive mentality comes into it. We're playing a little higher. Our fullbacks are suddenly making more runs in behind, and we're just getting a little more pressure. And I think that's what happened. I think we slowly built up the pressure. Now, the downside to that, not the downside, but the other side of that is when we did go 2-2, then the mindset became, oh, we somehow just got 2 goals here. Defend.
Yeah.
Don't concede. Don't concede. And that's normal. Footballers do that. I do that
Absolutely.
whenever I played. It's tough. And when you're playing against these teams and bringing on really good players, like Delap, for example, I know people don't like him, but he's a talented player. There's loads of others as well. Suddenly you're going, let's just get it. Somehow we've got 2 goals. Can we keep that? It's horrible to watch. And at the end of the day, if Cole Palmer misses from a yard away, it's your day, and you take it. Football's not always about crossbar. The header as well was close. Football's not always about tactics. At the end of the day, sometimes games just go awry. It just happens, and then it's about can we just not concede? But then that happens. A moment of luck. Football's about luck as well. Luck is everything in football.
It is.
It's massive.
It is.
And we got our luck in that game. We should have lost it from the perspective of they missed an open goal, but also from our perspective, you can say we deserve a point. Both can be true because we came back from 2-0 down. So did we deserve a point? From our perspective, of course we did. From their perspective, they think they should have won it. It's just one of them beautiful things in football, mate, where you create 2 chances and you score 2 goals.
Exactly.
But we know that's it. And at the end of the day, we can sit here for 2 hours and analyze the game in little moments, and we'll do it for a little bit. But if we go into really deep analysis, when this isn't necessarily a pattern we don't usually play like this. It seems to be against the bigger teams we do. But I don't care. We're getting results against them. That's all I care about against these big teams. We competed for a bit. We just went into our shell and just defended, and we came out of a point. So I don't care, to be honest.
Yeah.
Now, just to say as well, if this was against a Forest or a Burnley, then it's a different convection because these are the teams that you can compete against. But we're talking about a team that spent billions. It's
absolutely. Look at the level of players that they have. They basically have 2 teams. Sorry, they have 3 teams because they are getting managers, players left and right from Strasbourg too. So basically, they have an infinite, squad depth because look at them. All the players that they have: Estevao, Enzo Fernandez, Cucurella, Andre Santos, Palmer, and the strikers: João Pedro, Liam Delap. Mark Guyu too. So I thought honestly they were going to go for another striker honestly in the January transfer window, because of course the left has been criticized, Guyu ups and downs a lot. I think they needed to go for another one to João Pedro, to alternate with João Pedro. But overall, it's a golden point, absolutely. Of course, if you look at the tactical and the performance wise, if you look at the mentality side of it, absolutely that's great because we stayed in the game and we seize the moments that we need to seize. The penalty and the fight with with Bogle and the ball going to Okafor, to make it 2-2. And then of course it's natural to, especially looking at the first part of the game where you really struggle, especially like you said with the forward passes, with one of the players coming out trying to drag the centre back out and freeing the space. They had the majority of the opportunities that they had came from that play, and we weren't able to cope with that. So we took many risks, of course. But that's the way we were set up, We were without Stack, we were without Strauk, DCL. Absolutely. So it's a golden point, honestly. Absolutely golden point because, even the midfielders, if you look at the formation too, like I said before, at 5 at the back, you have Justin and Gudmundsson. Okay. I keep saying 5 at the back because effectively we were too defensive. So it's not a
Yeah.
3-5-2 or 3-4-3. In that sense, for me, it was a back five, but that's the
Yeah.
way it was too. Because look at the midfielders, Gruev and Ampadu. They spent a lot. They had their game as always. They broke their boots from home.
Hmm.
They broke us what we needed. The problem was that this time you have match up front, then you have Aronson trying to move in the usual way, very similar to what it was against Everton, for example. Then you had Bogle. They had used both of them, Bogle and Justin, to
Yeah.
play that role. So sometimes they
Yeah.
clashed. They clashed with areas, because we're going for the same areas at times. But then you have our back line, usually the back three, is the ball playing one, Strauk, the
Hmm.
physical one, taking the number 9, so Biol in this case, and the ball carrying one in terms of I can progress with the ball, I can elude the pressing by progressing with the ball, and that's one is Rodon. So this time you have Bornau playing in Rodon's place, but with different traits, because Bornau is more comparable, faster of course, but comparable to Biol. Biol was playing in his natural position, and yet he struggled because we were going with that thing of the forward passes. That's the way they set up, those
Hmm.
opportunities eventually leading to Biol being outpaced quite a few times, and the penalty too. Of course, people can call it soft, but he pushes him. That there's no
Yeah. Yeah. He
discussion about
does.
that. It's a
Two
penalty.
hands.
Try to make it less visible. At some point, basically, if you look at the action, he
Yeah.
just puts his hand. Joe Pedro.
Yeah.
At first time he sees his hand, he goes down. People can call it soft, but it's a penalty end of the day. So it's a mistake. That was a mistake for Yaka, honestly. Then you had Rodon, who usually progresses on his natural foot in
Hmm.
stroke place. So of course it was like you said, maybe they just had, because after the Forest game on Friday, it was on Tuesday the Chelsea game. They basically have, I guess they have the free day usually, but
Hmm.
probably not in these cases, because in these cases you do like a light training the day after.
Mm.
So maybe they had Saturday on a free, then
Yeah.
return on Sunday. But I think maybe they had a light training on Saturday because of the vicinity, the proximity of the two games. But like you said, probably they tried this formation very briefly in 3 days, three training
Yeah.
sessions. So absolutely, man. Looking at the context, like we said, the injured players who are all key
Mm.
players for us, the way we were set up, forcibly to a certain extent, but eventually the sub of Wakafo showed that as we set up in a similar way like Forest, I think
Yeah.
we could have been more on the front foot in like
I
we were
agree.
when
Yeah.
Okafor came on. So I
Yeah.
think that is the way forward, because like we said, man, look at the Everton game, second half, Arsenal game. When you basically set up a formation, when you have Aronson White in a free role and number 9 free all alone, we are usually very, very deep into our own half, and it doesn't work.
Hmm.
On the other hand, against Forest, he played with Okafor and Aronson. They were pressing the back line, and we were higher, and we were balanced because you had the midfielders capable of progressing off the ball. Gruev was the perfect example for that, and that couldn't happen, against Chelsea because of the way we were set up. So yeah, I think
Mm.
Farke can be criticized for that eventually, because in the end, of course, you didn't have certain players, but on the bench, for example, you still had Okafor, you still had Okafor. So maybe uh, instead of Bogle, in that sense, it could have been like Bornau or Justin, in that sense, and you play Bogle there, on the right. Like, for example, Bogle as the right wing back, Justin, Biol, and Rodon, or maybe Bornau in that sense, it
Mm.
was between probably Bornau and Biol in that sense. So Bogle, right wing back, the three at the back, for example, Bornau, Biol, Rodon, or Justin, of course. So usually for me, Justin, Biol, Rodon, Gudmunds on left wing back, Gruev and Ampadu, and then you have Aronson, Okafor, and Mecha. I think we needed extra man, like the second half show
Yeah.
when he came on. That extra man trying to keep us higher up the pitch.
Yeah.
Not too deep into our own half. So yeah, I think the only thing that can be pointed at Farke in this game is the starting 11. Honestly, when it changed, it led to us being more intense,
Mm.
and it caught them off guard, because they were used to be constantly into our own half, and that changed, and then led with the newfound pressure, led to the 2 goals. So yeah, eventually, absolutely golden point, because of
Yeah,
the context of that,
100%. And this is what we said earlier about we need to surprise big teams like this. If we try and just play one way and they know what we're playing against, the Chelseas, the Man Cities, the Liverpools, it'd be very difficult. We need to throw in surprises in there. And I think Okafor taking a defender out, going for it at the back, then playing with Okafor and out winger. Oh, okay, different type of profile, different player to think about. And it worked at the end of the day. He did his role. And Okafor, he was good against Forest. It's good to see
yeah,
him. He feels in his interviews as well, he's smiling a lot. He looks quite happy. So hopefully this can continue for him because he's actually impacting the games a lot now, which is what we need him to do, right? But
yeah,
I agree. This is one of the issues with a back five when it is more defensive and you are not a dominant possession team in a back five, especially when you're playing a team like Chelsea whose front players never stand still. So, for example, when João Pedro dropped deeper, went into midfield to receive the ball,
yeah,
or a Palmer did that, the centre back had to go with him because there was no spare man because you literally have 3 centre backs and 2 wing backs,
yeah,
and there's only two midfield at that point because obviously you've got the 3 in front of them. So Aronson's having to do the wide thing, so there's no overload out wide, and then the other side, same for Bogle. So then you had Metcher, obviously pretty helpless task up there by yourself, So it was kind of like our centre backs had to go with them. Bornau and Bjorn, they kind of had to do that, and Rodon as well. So it's quite difficult to really blame them for when they did get dragged out because you can't leave a spare man in the middle at the end of the day.
yeah,
So, yeah, tactically, I think it's a back five thing. I've always said this. I think back five has its strengths, obviously. It's very hard to play against at times. It's quite hard to figure out who's who, where's where, what runs are going to make. We always struggled at college, at uni, whenever the team played a back five, we just hated it. It was horrible. But the other side to it, if you're a dominant team and they're defensive, they literally have 5 at the back. And then they've got one less offensive player. So you can always create overloads in midfield in them spaces. And that's what they did with Palmer, with Pedro, with other players as well. So once we got to grips with that, once we brought intensity, once we brought on another offensive player, then we could apply pressure a lot higher. And it worked. And that's why Bogle had a bit more license to press high as well. And we saw that. He got his reward. And yeah, it was good to see. But yeah, man, I agree. The injuries are huge. We're away at Chelsea. I mean, they've won 4 in a row before this game in the league. That's a good point. I don't care how we do that
Golden
one.
point, man. Golden point, man. Exactly.
Absolutely.
We need to take, especially away in the Premier League. It's never easy, especially for us at Stamford Bridge to get our record there. It's not easy to go there and equalize eventually.
Yeah.
Grab a draw the way we did, especially looking at how the game was lined up to that point. Up to that penalty, before up to probably the substitution with Bornau forced out basically. But we got that point because we took them out. We took them by surprise. Then they resettled. We did too because we were like, okay, this is a good point. Let's defend this point because, like you said, playing against a back five is not easy because, especially with the 2 defensive midfielders in front of them, they force you to the wings. They force you to go to the flanks, and it's not easy. But effectively, fair play to Chelsea with that because they were pretty effective even in the middle. With the forward lines, João Pedro. It's not easy. It's not easy. The game I was, the Reggiana one, they were playing with that 5-3-1-1 all game, 90 minutes with that. They eventually scored with a counter attack. Great screamer, by the way. But the opposition, Mantova, they were consistently struggling to create chances because Reggiana kept sending them to the wingers. They never created anything at any space because they didn't have one like João Pedro, in that sense. João Pedro was the one for Chelsea that kept going towards the ball, to try to drag the centre back out, So it's not easy, especially playing in narrow spaces because it's never narrow when you have 2 or 3 midfielders, crowding in front of the box, in front of the area, in front of the centre backs. So fair play because eventually, Chelsea, if you look at the 90 minutes, they were the better team. They would have won the game had Cole Palmer scored that, and they kept getting chances too after our equaliser. But yeah, for the context, absolutely golden point. You people, especially Leeds fans, of course, have grown accustomed, to a good style of football. That's what Marcelo caused to us. Eventually, we expect a certain type of football. Like when you're playing for Barcelona or you are a Barcelona fan, you expect tiki taka, you expect that
Mm.
a possession-based football. Real Madrid, Ancelotti last season was criticized. It was the team was good, but looking at the way they were playing, because they were labeled as too defensive-minded by the
Mhm.
very demanding Bernabeu crowd, So they expect a certain type of football philosophy
Of
there,
course. Yeah.
and we do too now. After what happened with Bielsa, Bielsa made us all believers, made us all convert, to a certain football philosophy. The majority of us, and that philosophy is ball possession football, offensive football, eye pressing, because that's what we fell in love with. So Marsh, when he arrived, he got points, in that period. There were also bad games, of course, where we were absolutely battered. Uh, then we stay up with that
Mm.
Brighton draw and then the Brentford one. But I remember even in those games, I remember saying one can like what Marsh is doing, but still point out certain things, because at the time there were a lot of criticism. Like if you are criticizing the performances under Marsh, uh, you are basically trying to impose a football philosophy. No, of course, you can appreciate a different philosophy. Like Max Allegri at AC Milan is very defensive minded, very counter attack, but he gets points. Antonio Conte used to be like that too. There's different type of managers, so there's not one route, one way to win a game. But eventually, we kept looking for someone with a similar philosophy to Bielsa. Of course, Faki
Mm.
is different, but he's still offensive
Mhm.
minded, and he has adapted, and he plays in a different formation now, of course, compared to the back four the
Mm.
Bielsa used to play. But eventually, there's also a different way to grab points, and that's the one. Like, be
Yeah.
clinical when it matters and
Mhm.
seize the moment when it matters, and that's what we did at Stamford Bridge. So it's
Ride your luck. Ride your luck. Yeah.
absolutely. It's refreshing, man, because it shows us that we are not a very uh, mirror-looking team. Like we get the points only when we are in control in possession. Also, the
Mm.
mentality and the aggression helps you in certain games when you are not at your best, when you have problems, when you have injuries. There's also this plan B. The plan B
Mm.
of, like, let's try to not feel beaten. Because to,
Mm.
to kneel down at Stamford Bridge,
Yeah.
there's other teams probably that would have crumbled and it could have ended in 3-4 nil.
Mm.
We caught them by surprise with that. We got back into the game 2-2, and we defended the 2-2 because it's blatant that we defended the 2-2. But it's very
Mm.
good to see that, because eventually this one, in perspective, other teams will go to big places and try to grab points. If they don't get points, we took a point there. We are unbeaten
Mm.
against Chelsea this season.
Mm.
So these are the points against the top teams that matter the most, especially
Yeah.
away, because they can really come in handy,
Mm.
in the future towards the later stages of the league, because other teams, direct rivals for relegation, will have to go to these places.
Mm. And just to add on that, mate, like, coming from either a personal perspective of playing, being an analyst, or being a coach, some of the best games in my memory are the ones where you weren't the best team, but you get something from it against a good team. It's great. It builds so much team spirit. You can go in that changing room.
Absolutely.
Not only are you happy with a point from 2-0 down away at Stamford Bridge, but you're laughing, you're having a joke that they missed that open goal and we've got a point. I can't believe it. Football's not going to go in the thing and go, oh, we should have defended. Well, I'm gutted. We nearly let them score. They'll be buzzing that they missed that chance. It's hilarious, that's football. These are people. I remember when we played. I always talk about this at uni when we played our first team, and we were a very offensive team when we played in the league. We had really creative wingers and strikers that could score goals, and we'd just go 1v1. We'd beat our men. We'd get a lot of crosses in. But when we played our first team, we played a low block, and it was similar to Chelsea. At times they missed chances, but then at times, later on in the game, we'd be a threat on the counter with our winger. We would go 1v1 direct. We'd win free kicks, and we got a last minute equaliser and then won on penalties. But that game was the best feeling because we knew going into that we were playing a very good team with players that are better than ours. We weren't denying that, but we knew we could set up, maybe ride our luck. That was part of it. They had to miss chances. That's going to be a thing. We knew if we could do that, we could get something mentally. Later on in the game, they were getting frustrated. We were getting more confident. So then when it went to penalties, their heads were down and ours were up. And from that moment, I had zero doubt that we were going to win that on penalties because they wanted to win it in the 90 minutes and they didn't. They couldn't break us down. We rode our luck at times. That's football, and that's why I love it. You know, I've won games 14-0 before, and I've lost games 14-0 before. You know, they're all right. They're fun, but they're not competitive. I love competitive games. I love games where you ride your luck. It's part of it. It's the joy of football. Players miss an open goal. That's hilarious. It's part of it. You're going, I can't believe we've got a point, but we've got a point because we took our chances and we worked hard and we came from 2-0 down. That's why we got a point. You know, why we lost, why we didn't lose the point is not down to me. That's down to Chelsea missing a chance. We got the point because we, from 2-0 down, decided we want to get something from this. And yeah, big up. I've always said this. We have all season, Andre. These players, I just like these players. I think the quality.
Absolutely, man. They're a good group. And it shows, you know, it translates on the pitch when you look at them, you know, they are a good group. You know, I don't like these signs, you know, because of course there are examples, but I want to take this as an example. Of course, it only shows you one part, but I remember that video, you know, of the season we went down, you know, when everyone was with his headphones going into the stadium outside the hotel, not acknowledging fans, you know, everybody on his own, you know. Instead, even when you do watch the content made by the club this season and last season, like the fun part when Ampadu was imitating animals, you know, this type of content, you know, Nyonto racing with Ramazani last season with the two cars, you know, the of course arcade cars. Cairns arriving at the Christmas commercial, you know, with like a chef top, you know, something that you can see looking at the way they conduct themselves and the way they play for each other on the pitch that this is a united group, and this is a fundamental point when you need to stay up, you know, because you need unity, you need players connected, you need players believing in the manager. And trust me, there were rumors about, there were people, not rumors, there were people suggesting when Farke was when we were not getting results, like these players are not playing for the managers. And it was actually against Chelsea. I remember you were saying that, look, they are playing for the manager tonight. They are showing this is our manager. They are defending themselves because, of course, if a manager goes, that's what's going to happen probably at Forest now. 3 managers, and the fans will look at the place and say, oh, now you don't have any alibi. You don't have any other reason, you know, you don't have any other excuses, you know. Now it's up to you because we are team managers. So the problem must be you now. It must be you, the problem, not the manager. But now, apart from the manager, it's very a good man management. Yeah, good at man management. You know, Fark. I think the only thing is I noticed that in the last couple of games too. I think we are very short in the way he sees key players. Honestly, even the substitutes. You know, like Longstaff return. It took him a couple of games, 3 games, in order to be involved again in the rotations. You know, gonna use an NBA term. Now that thing is happening to Buonanotte and Tanaka. You know. It's not criticism, you know, but it's just an acknowledging a fact. I think there's still room to be more flexible with the players involved, you know, because even for us, you know, when we are looking forward to other game to the upcoming games, you can already guess the formation in a certain sense, you know, or guess, okay, if that when you look at the starting 11, like, okay, if it's not working, that's what's gonna happen. Like for example, Okafor coming on against Chelsea. There's not much room to say, oh, probably Nyonto is going to be involved, Buonanotte is going to has a chance to start, Tanaka is going to come on if we need a runner, you know. It feels like that he really has a mindset of, okay, these are the players I can trust to make a difference in the key moments. And the other ones, I can play them, but in different situations, you know. Because Tanaka, I think he was great at the start of the season. Now he has seen his minutes, you know, drop down. And also Gruev, you know, is playing more. Of course, there's up and downs. After the Forest game, is on the up because Farke was proven right with okay, I'm going to play Okafor and
Yeah.
Aronson, try to keep the team higher up the pitch, and that allows Gruev to progress unmarked off the ball and be more involved in the build up in the final third too, and it did. But in other games like against Chelsea, for example, that won't always work. So in my mind, I say, okay, we will need a player in midfield if we recover the ball capable of transitioning fastly from defense to attack and carrying the ball. And that player is, if you're looking at one in midfield, is Tanaka, obviously. If you want a player similar to Aronson, you have Buonanotte. So yeah, I'm really intrigued to see how we will get these players involved again, because at one point you see that he'll involve them again. It happened with Justin before, it happened with other players, so they will still play a part. They have a part to play. So I'm really intrigued to see what role he will tailor for them, because eventually he will get them back into the rotations. Especially Tanaka and Buonanotte, I think. Also probably Gnonto now has more to prove, because we have that outlet. Okafor is doing well in terms of GA numbers now in central areas again. But also he's showing that he wants to take that spot permanently, and you see that by the switch that he had mentally. Now he's pressing more, he's more aggressive. He still isn't effective from the wing for me. I think he's better in central areas. That's why I said he's not a Premier League winger, because I think he's playing more centrally, like in these areas. I think he's more effective, both off the ball, with the ball, I meant, of course, he's not a Premier League winger. Better in center spaces. Off the ball, if he goes and press, he really translates into helping the team to stay higher up, like similarly to what Aronson does, So when Okafor on that side doing well in that sense, you guess, okay, Gnonto, Buonanotte as an alternative, or Dan James, because I think the substitution with Dan James was a good one, honestly, on paper. Because after in that moment of the game, again, back to deep. If we recover the ball, we have a runner that can really go all the way, So it was a good one. But yeah, I'm really intrigued to see that. Any final assessment, Lucky, or on the relegation clashes, that happened during the midweek fixtures, because it looks like. No, I want to take a term, that Graham Smith used, is turned into a Royal Rumble, and it is actually. So I want to ask you what are the talks, and of course, if you have anything to say about Tanaka and Gnonto, these players, Okafor, James.
I think offensive-minded players. I think it's obvious. Farke likes to have 8 defensive-minded players, or 6 defensive-minded players, 2 neutrals in the wing backs that can do both, and then 3 out-and-out attackers. Whereas other managers might like 4 out-and-out attacking or 5 out-and-out attacking offensive players. Like Rossini likes very offensive players. So Farke's a little more reserved in the sense that he prefers defensive solid. He prefers to be defensively solid before he overdoes the offensive side of it. And for example, you look at his subs, he never really brings more than 1 offensive player on before the 85th minute. It's usually 1. He might make 2 defensive changes, or, a Longstaff who's quite a neutral player. But he never really will do a Gnonto and an Okafor in the 65th minute. He'll do 1, and then if he needs to do it in the 85th, he'll bring on a Gnonto or a Buonanotte. So he prefers the defensive-minded or the more neutral players than the offensive ones. And that, in the more that can be frustrating at times when you're watching the game and you're saying this is crying out for another offensive player. Of course, and that's about preference as well. That's about what you want to see the game played, how you see the game, what you think the game needs. But from his perspective, and I guess from the coaching staff perspective, they want that solid base. They want to be in games. So then in the trust that we can nick a goal like we did at the weekend, we stayed in the game because we did have them solid fundamentals, and we nicked it. We rode our luck. We nicked it again. We scrapped, and that's where we got our point. Football sometimes, mate, is, when you look online is very much a kind of ideal, elite, tactical mindset to football, right? Which is a big part of it, obviously. Elite, the top everything's Premier League, the top players, the best tactics, the best coaches. But deep within football, at its roots and its core, is hard work, mentality, never giving up. Like in every sport, right? The sports mentality. The best athletes are the ones that don't give up when they're losing. The best athletes are the ones that they might not be the most talented, but they work the hardest, you know? And that's the same for this team. I don't think we have the most talented players. They're good, obviously. They're very good, but compared to others. But we have a real strong core mentality in that side. Everyone knows what the score is. Everyone knows the situation. Everyone knows what they're doing. Everyone wants and believes that we can stay in this league, and I truly believe that. I think in the past, players have said, you know, we believe we can stay in this league, and of course they're going to say that. I actually fully believe these lot. You know, Calvert-Lewin does a lot of interviews and he says it, and he's smiling when he says it. He goes, of course we can stay in this league. And it's players like that that are the ones that instill this. And I saw a great thing just to end this point. Some guy tweeted, I can't see it was, Ampadu was the first signing of this new kind of era.
Yeah.
Ethan Ampadu. And that set a precedent of what was to come. And it's so true. You think of everything Ampadu is as a person, as a player. When I say as a person, I don't know him as a person, but what comes across as a person,
Yeah,
and as a player, that is installed in kind of every part of this club. Him and Farker, that first sight, the manager appointment and the first signing. The first signing was perfect for the manager. You know,
yeah,
strong mentally, safe player, quality player, aggressive player, good person, and then you build from that. And that's the core which we're built from. And that is carrying us to where it is now. And just on the relegation stuff, it's great. I'm enjoying it. I am, because do you know why? I
and
look at everyone
finally,
around us. Yeah. I look at
some
everyone
battle,
around us.
man.
Exactly. Now, the reason I'm enjoying this is because look at Wolves, probably already down. Burnley, probably already down.
Yeah.
Apart from that, West Ham, although they've had recent form lately, there's been a lot of talk about Nuno in the last few months. Not very happy there. They should be higher. All this stuff. In Europe, Forest just sacked their manager. Fans are not happy. Turmoil again. Tottenham just sacked their manager. Turmoil. Even Brighton, one above us, not happy. Not going well. Not won in months, or over a month, I think, since January. Crystal Palace, even in 13th.
Turmoil too.
Turmoil.
Mateta.
The only club in that little section that is in a good place, where we're confident, who feels good, the fans, most of them anyway, are very happy with what we're doing, is us. So that's why I'm confident in this little battle that will come out on top, I believe. I think at times we'll have to ride our luck. I think at times, a lot of this obviously depends on injuries and stuff like this. But from what I've seen so far and the way the club feels, everything around it, you know, the feeling around the club, if we lose it from here, it's been catastrophic. It's worse than probably when we went down before, because that was bad for a long time. This is good. We've got 12 more games. I'll get table up there, mate. Yep. 12 more games. And then we're in the league, and then we can build from there. So I'm enjoying it because out of all them teams, our environment feels like it's the best. And I think that might carry us over. I'm never fully confident with Leeds United, but that's a Leeds United thing. That's nothing to do with these players that are at the club currently. I like these players a lot. I believe in them, but Leeds United, the club, is the thing that doesn't make me fully
it's
confident.
a history, you know, man, that never keeps you, you know, grounded, or we'll be fine. No, there's always that extra, you know. I remember last season, in one of the thrashings, you know, Stoke, Cardiff, on one of these games, you know, Bristol. I remember I read from someone in the space, actually, I can't remember who it was. Like, I'm supporting Leeds United means that even if you are 5-0 up, you're here sitting and thinking about how they will now score 6 to come back into the game.
Do you know what? Just very quickly, it was like at Forest. So Forest never really they didn't really look like they were going to score too much. They got a few crosses in, but they didn't have clear chances. But when they scored that goal at 3-1, everyone went, oh.
or
Even though it was
with the
probably going to be
basketball
fine.
player.
Yeah,
With the
yeah.
basketball player.
Honestly, mate,
Look
it's
at the
so
comments
nervy.
about him. Look at the comments about him. I was on Jer podcast with him and Paul. When it was announced that Luca, we were talking
Yeah.
about the transfer window. When it was announced that Luca was signing for Forest, and just said, yeah, Forest is signing Lorenzo Luca, and I said, oh yeah, true, and I don't like him. Like
It was
Napoli fans were eager to don't have them in their team because they spent 35 million last summer. But you see, he's very monodimensional. You just have to get the ball to his head, otherwise he's not involved. That's the only way he's gonna score because he's not versatile. He's not versatile, and he doesn't have the right mentality for me to. Now I woke up this morning going to check Twitter, with the latest news. I see suddenly a lot of Forest fans saying like this is the worst striker I've ever seen since Rafik Jabbour played for Nottingham Forest. Like now I understand why Napoli wanted to sell him to us. I remember actually when we were in the championship, there was someone suggesting like we should sign Lorenzo Luca from Udinese at the time, and I said I don't think he's good. He's a player adaptable for English football, and so far he hasn't adapted at all to English football. But even after he scored against Leeds, 3-1, he went on Instagram and he said like a biblical quote, like let them talk because they don't know, or like no, forgive them because they don't know what they're talking about, something like a biblical quote. But after a 3-1, when you are in a bad run uh, of games ahead of you, because even it's not a bad run actually, because look at Forest, they sacked Daesh, but look at them in the table. It's draw, last 5, draw, win, draw, loss, the one against us, and then draw again. I think they sacked him because they have drawn against Wolverhampton, who have 9 points. That's completely Marinakis style for me,
Yeah.
because there were reports that he was very chill before the game. Was talking with
Mm.
Murillo, was injured right now on the sidelines. He was very jovial, before the game. Then after the game, the journalist said that he went into the dressing room to talk with the senior players. Shouts were heard. He was
Right.
furious basically. And then look at the timing of the Forest tweet of the sacking of Sean Dyche. It was like in the middle of the night. So I think it
Yeah.
was everything went to pieces after the game. But again, you talk about Crystal Palace, mate. I want to talk about Forest and Tottenham too. These teams are playing in Europe.
Yeah.
Tottenham didn't
Yeah.
have a great season last season in the league under Ange Postecoglou, but they focused totally on the Europa League and they won it. That's a great achievement. There's the running joke about Spurs trophyless. They won a trophy actually. Ange should have stayed in charge for me, because after what he did in the Europa League last season with Spurs, I think that was when you won a trophy like that, second trophy, major trophy in Europe, you can carry on that enthusiasm into the next season with that manager. They decided to sack him. Forest too. They are in the Europa League only because of the sanction that was applied to Crystal Palace, who won the FA Cup and went relegated to the Conference League because of the John Textor situation with the Olympique Lyon. But them too, Forest, Nuno, great season last season. They were one of the best performing teams last season.
Great to watch. Yeah.
Very exciting football, great to watch. Players overperforming like Chris Wood, Yates. They were perfect for that season. They were working perfectly. During the summer, Marinakis, of course, was because he's like the guru of Greek football too with Olympiacos. He was awarding an award to Ange. When Ange became available, of course, he said, yeah, let's bring Ange to Nottingham Forest. But the team was built in a different way, not suited for his style of football, his offensive style of football. So, of course, there were rifts with Nuno, but you need to take those rifts, and take them to the side for the goodwill of the club. And he didn't. Eventually sacked Nuno. And Nuno was the main reason eventually of them overperforming last season, and getting to that European spot, So that's the same for me. Everything goes from now. There's no clarity behind the scenes at Forest because they've changed for these players. I mean, Nuno, Ange, Sean Dyche, now the fourth manager, Vitor Pereira too, who wasn't great
Yep.
at Wolves. He wasn't great.
Mhm.
Even an 80-60 Munich in the past, in Europe, it wasn't great in Europe for me, honestly, to be fair, in these nations. Even Brighton, I think Brighton will need to keep going, honestly, because they have a good manager. I think it's a bad period. They have some young players too, but they have the system to get out of this situation. The problem with Tottenham, Forest, and Palace is that they have built squads for European competitions, and there you're full of players who are not used at all to be in a relegation battle. So under pressure, with no clarity, now Thomas Frank sacked. Red De Zerbi probably is going to sign to be the new Spurs manager. West Ham, they have Nuno. They 3 wins in the last 5. It would have been 4 had Benjamin Sesko scored for Man United. So it's very tight. It would be tight till the end of the season because I think West Ham right now have better chances if they keep going like that than Forest and Tottenham, because Tottenham, again, full of good players, but they are not used to being in a relegation battle. Forest, same. Palace, if they don't stir the ship with Glasner leaving at the end of the season, the Mateta situation, Gay leaving for Man City, these players, Conor Gallagher, for example, I suppose, is not used to being in a relegation battle. Christian Romero is not used to being in a relegation battle in the Premier League. Richarlison is not used. Forest, Callum Hudson-Odoi, Elliot Anderson, they are not used to being in a relegation battle. These players,
No.
Igor Jesus. So yeah, I think the pressure situation will play a part too in this relegation battle, honestly. And we are solid. We know what we want to do. We are very calm about our target is staying one place above the relegation zone. This team wanted to be in Europe at the start of the season, so that's the difference. Now they have to reset their mind and say, "Oh, we need to stay up." But with players that are not used to being that, to grab every single point, so it's gonna be absolutely a nightmare for them to the end of the season for me.
Yeah, I agree, mate. It's good fun. I'm just look. Obviously, times can change, things can change, but 26 game into the season, and I think we've been on one bad run.
Yeah,
all season. That's really impressive. I think we've been quite consistent in terms of our results. We've not gone weeks and weeks without a win or a point. Obviously, we had one bad run, but apart from that, it's been relatively consistent. We've been getting a few wins, quite a lot of draws, a few losses. That period there, the 4 losses, after that.
And before too.
And before, yeah, but there's still a few wins in there. We've got 2 wins in there, 2 draws as well. We're getting what we need. We had one bad period of 4 losses, and they were bad. We were terrible, apart from the Man City game where we're actually all right. But after that, we fixed it. Since then, for the last few months, we look like a good team. We look like a solid mid-table competitive team in the Premier League. Now, there's 12 games left, and we have to maintain that level. Because although I'm praising us in the way we are, let's continue that now. Because like you said, West Ham are getting some points. Forest, I mean, who knows? Just might. All they need is a few wins as well. Tottenham, you'd expect they have the players to get out of this. Brighton, you expect to have the players and the system to get out of this. One's got to go down. So let's just keep being us, keep doing what we've been doing for the last few months, and we'll be all right. Can't let the standards drop now. And this is where now, for me, it's so important that our leaders, including the manager, Ampadu, Calvert-Lewin, Longstaff, these experienced players that have been in this league in similar situations at this time of the season, this is where they need to step up now and help everyone else through it. So I'm happy. We look good. We're playing decent. We're getting results as well. Key thing there. The mentality seems good. The team seems together. Just 12 games left. Finish it off now. Finish what you've been doing. All this hard work, every single game that they put into it. This is it now. There's 12 games left. Get it done. So good luck to them. I can't wait. I'm here for it anyway. So let's see. I'm excited, nervous.
Yeah, absolutely. Like all of us, because I wanted to show also this, it's also a good thing, it's a good thing to do from time to time. I like to challenge myself in a certain way, in this one. So yeah, this is the table calculator for the people that don't know that. It's available on What Football, but I want to use that to see the next games, because of course it
expand
yeah,
it, Andre. It's a
yeah,
little small, mate.
yeah.
All right.
Let's expand it. Yeah, here we are.
Yeah, that's fine.
So I want to use this one in this case to see the next couple of fixtures, because in the end we are edging towards match day 27, and there's not many games left, to be fair,
It's not.
honestly, because look at this. This will be the next round of fixtures. Then you have these games left. And yeah, next match day. We're going to Villa, tough place to go.
Yeah.
Brighton are going to Brentford, though. For example, West Ham are facing Bournemouth at home. Crystal Palace against Wolverhampton. Forest have Liverpool.
Yeah.
So again, here these are all tough fixtures for everyone involved. Tottenham have Arsenal, the North London derby. So these is the round of fixtures. Anything can happen. If we can grab even a point, it will still be good, because I think Brentford right now have better chances to win this one compared to Brighton. West Ham, I think they can take points against Bournemouth. Palace will take points against Wolverhampton. Forest will lose points for me against Liverpool, and Tottenham right now with the new manager coming in too against Arsenal, first game against Arsenal.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Of course, that's the FA Cup in between, of course, so it will have more time compared to first game in the league, of course, not at Tottenham. Overall, I think in the league, of course, first game would be, because it's on the 22nd of February. But after that, we have Man City, direct clash, Brighton against Forest, Tottenham against Fulham at Craven Cottage, Palace goes to Man United, and then you have West Ham, Liverpool, West Ham.
Yeah.
So again, another tough round of fixtures here. Then next we have Sunderland, a key game, this one, because looking at the other fixtures, Brighton have Arsenal, West Ham are going to Fulham, Tottenham, Palace, direct clash again, and Nottingham Forest are going to Man City. So match day 29 will be pivotal for us. Absolutely pivotal, this one. Then the 30, direct clash against Palace. West Ham and Man City, so far West Ham have one of the toughest clashes, honestly. One of the toughest run of games, to be fair. Liverpool, Tottenham too. Forest against Fulham. So honestly, anything can happen, but to be fair, this one's Sunderland,
29, massive, yeah.
Palace, and then you have Brentford at home.
Mate, this is what I've been saying, speaking to my dad, and for me, again, we've got to be not realistic, because we can get points from anyone on our day. We've proven that. But I'm just trying to be neutral in this instance, assuming the worst. I like to assume the worst, so that when it's slightly better, I'm happy. Assuming Villa and Man City, we don't win any, we get no points. Not saying it's impossible. I think we can get a point from Villa. I really do. City will be hard. It depends what City turn up. If City turn up, they'll beat anyone in the league. Now, after that, our home games, remaining home games this season, are Sunderland at home, Brentford at home, Wolves at home, Burnley at home, Brighton at home.
Yeah, Bournemouth away.
Those are the games that will keep us in the league or won't, in my opinion. I think they are the key ones. Our home form this season has been so good.
This one too. Penultimate day of the season against
and
Brighton.
We know we have last game.
Again.
Last game of the season, West Ham. Let's not get it down to that. Let's finish the job before then. So for me, them 5 home games that we have coming up in Wolves, Burnley, Brighton, Brentford, and Sunderland, they're the ones for me. They're the key game.
Absolutely.
Do it. Do the job. Can we nick a few away points in there? But those are the home games. Our home form has been so good. We've looked, apart from maybe 1 or 2 games, we've looked so good at home. Now is the time to carry that and keep that in the most important part of the season against teams. Brentford will be tough. Brentford are very good. I know people see the name and stuff, but Brentford play very good football.
Yeah.
Even
Yeah.
Sunderland as well. But we should be beating them at home. In my opinion, if we want to stay in this league, these are the games that matter. Wolves at home, have to win that. Have to. Cannot slip up. Burnley, have to win that. Brighton, for me, have to win that.
Have to win that.
I think,
absolutely.
I think West Ham will be close. I don't think they'll win every game, obviously. But I actually don't think they'll drop off too much. I think they found a good little rhythm. They've got the players back. They're playing quite decent football. They've got players like Jared Bowen, Somerville. They've got some good talented players in there. England internationals as
Fernandes.
well. Yeah, of course. So they'll stay close. I don't think the gap will widen. I honestly don't. So for me, a lot is going to come down to our home form in the next few weeks and that game against Brighton before we play West Ham. That could be it. We might need a point, at that point. But our home form now has been the reason where we are. And for me, our home form, and it's obvious, will be the reason we stay up or go down.
Yeah, absolutely. Because I think if we can take points in the next two, there will be massive.
Huge.
Villa away and Man City at home.
It's not impossible as well. I'm not
It's
writing
not
it off.
impossible. Yeah,
Assuming we
absolutely.
don't. Yeah.
Because after that, on paper, of course, it gets easier because you have Sunderland were practically safe.
Yeah.
So and we've seen when we play at the place, that we were very close to get to go all the way basically. Then you have a direct clash against Palace away. So anything can happen in these sort of games. Like you said, Brentford, Burnley, Brighton, Wolves. These are the games. Honestly, these are absolutely the games. Because after that, you have Bournemouth and other teams with a lot of ups and downs. Tottenham will be a direct clash. Burnley may already been relegated by the time we face them. Brighton, again, like we said, these home games will be absolutely massive because it shouldn't come to the final day of the season with the direct clash with the relegation rival in West Ham, and even the one before with Tottenham, because people tend to say, oh, Tottenham will sort off from this situation. I think they have the players absolutely to do that, but right now, I'm not so sure they will go too much higher than the current position they are, to be fair, because of course on paper they have leaders, but where are these leaders now? They've changed managers recently in the last 4, let's say 5 years, after they got to the Champions League final with Pochettino. But probably sacking Pochettino was the start of this thing, because they aren't playing the Champions League only because of Postecoglou leading them to the Europa League final and winning it against Man United. But if you don't bring consistency and stability to a club, eventually these issues plague the club, and eventually Tottenham has been plagued with the lack of leaders and consistency in these moments. So I'm not sure, honestly. They really risk now. I've changed my mind, honestly. I was sure they were gonna, of course, they're gonna go out, of that threatening area. I'm not so sure, honestly, to be fair, because I don't see many togetherness, leadership in their team, to be fair. So we'll see, but I'm not so sure that they will improve eventually their current position in order to have a mid-table finish. But by the way, we talked about Sean Dyche sacking, Thomas Franz sacking in this context. There's another managerial change that I want to ask you about, also about certain comments, and I would like you to elaborate on that. We are talking about the championship, of course. A lot of going on there, with the Coventry. Look like they had already won the league on paper, but eventually it wasn't the case. There's Middlesbrough improving. There was the former Leeds players clashing, with Middlesbrough and Sheffield United, with Bamford, Phillips, Ayling, all these players from that era. But I want to ask you while I bring up the league table of the championship. It is coming up. I want to ask you about the appointment of Watford, who are currently in 12th place in the championship. They have appointed Edward Still, the brother of Will Still, who used to be at Southampton at the terrible start of the season, so it didn't work for him. It was hailed like he's a good manager. I like him, honestly, but sometimes things don't work out. Unfortunately, it doesn't make him a better manager now all of a sudden, but it didn't work. What shows that he wasn't ready for English football so far. He will have another chance. Maybe will improve in the next opportunity, next experience. But so far, English football is told Will Steele is not ready to manage a team with ambition in English football, even in the Championship, because people were saying, let's bring him to the Premier League after we did the Rams and Lens. But yeah, of course, Watford appointed his brother Edward Steele, and there were some comments about him made by their club legend Troy Deeney that basically diminished the appointment. So let's talk about that, Loki, because I know that you have read and seen these comments on TV. You are still muted, by the way.
Apologies.
Yeah, no
Yeah,
worries.
yeah, mate. It just annoyed me, and this is a wider topic. This is not necessarily about Watford or Edward or Will. It's about this idea that people that have not played professional football are not good managers. So Troy Deeney, I can't remember what show he was on, but they were laughing, they were joking about it, about the appointment of Edward Still, and basically suggesting in there that he doesn't really know who he is or what he does, which doesn't fill him with confidence. Now, this is where it comes down to research and educating yourself on things. Go have a look. Before you make a judgment, say, I don't have confidence because I don't know who he is. Go have a look who he is. Go have a look what he's gone through in his career to get to this point, because he's earned it. Now, I'm not saying it'll work. I have no idea. I have no idea if it'll work. That's not the point. The point is, it's so hard for anyone to make it in football if you've not got a pro background, a pro career. Obviously, if you played in the game, you'll get a leg up straight away to become a coach. Simple as that. You might even get an assistant job within 6 months of retiring. You might even get a first team. There's so many managers. And most of them, the amount of top pros that make top managers is so rare. The list is very thin. It's a completely different skill. It's a completely different knowledge, being a coach and a player. It can work at times. Pep's a good example of that, obviously. Loads of others as well, Ancelotti. But
yeah,
there's so many really good players that made terrible coaches. Now, for someone like Troy Deeney, who's obviously very respected at Watford and done ridiculously good things as a footballer, done really well to get where he is, surely a player in his position can show a little more sympathy and a little more respect to a guy that's had to work so hard, having not come from the pro scene, to get where he is. It's so frustrating that pros don't do this. Just do a little bit of research. I get it, you're a pro, you can get a job whenever you want it, but show some respect to people that aren't and didn't, because they've worked in this sense to become a manager harder than you have to become a manager. Troy Deeney probably worked extremely hard to become a professional footballer, so surely he can understand that and use that to, allay confidence in what he's saying about Edward and Will, because there's such a narrative, and I don't like it, that it's, I don't know who he is, which means he's rubbish, or if I don't know, well, who are you to know that? If you've not done your research, of course you know what know someone is. Look, I'm not saying I don't know much about him. I know who he is. I know what he's gone. I know where he's been in his career. Like his brother, didn't play professional football. Followed his brother in terms of they went together. They were a team for a lot of the clubs. He became an analyst. And by the way, to even become an analyst in professional football is so difficult. Gone through that route, worked his way up, became a coach, assistant coach to his brother, done all the route, gone through all the grind every single year to be respected in the game. And now he's got an opportunity to show what he can be as a coach at a good club, with a good squad who's still getting into the playoffs, the championship. And he's earned every second of that. I think it's so dismissive to, and this isn't just Troy Deeney, this is just the overall narrative in football that because he ain't an ex-pro, he's not going to be a good coach. Who says that? I just think it's completely wrong and disrespectful for these people that have to work 100 times harder than ex-pros to become a manager, because they do. because they don't have the contacts, they don't have the leg up, they don't have the respect in the game. They have to earn it. You know, it's so hard to even get a paid role in football as a coach when you've not been a professional footballer. A paid role is so hard. Even if you've got your qualifications, it's a big thing. You know, I look online a lot. There's so many coaches that have their A licenses, their B licenses, that can't get clubs. It's crazy. So respect to him is what I'm saying. Respect to Edward and his brother who didn't come from the pro scene, who have made it. And look, might fail. That's not the point. They've earned the right to be there, and they've earned the right to have people's respect. So sorry, I went off on one there.
No, don't worry. Absolutely, I agree with what you said in the end, because we're not talking about someone who was granted the job, out of the blue. If you look at his career, he managed from July 2021 to October 2022 at Charleroi. Then then took over at Eupen from November 2022 through June 2023. Then had a brief career, stint. That was the term, a brief stint, at Kortrijk. But then he stayed in the game. He was assistant manager of his brother at a few clubs. Then, of course, he was caretaker manager in February for 2 games with Anderlecht. So even when his brother moved to Southampton, eventually he stayed in continental Europe. He was at other clubs, so he's not completely attached to his brother. He's not arrived where he is because of his brother. And there's this stigma for me regarding the Steel brothers, of Will being a football manager addict, that eventually got his job because of Football Manager. No, he just made an interview back in the day saying, I love Football Manager. I used to play a lot and try the tactics, there. Like we all did, when we're playing FIFA, when we play Football Manager, I don't play Football Manager, but I used to do that in FIFA back in the day. Because it was good, when we were kids, when we were in our adolescence, to have fun and try to do careers, try to buy these players, try to be to play these tactics, if you like, to experiment football. So there's this stigma like, oh, they got there because of a good story, like the Football Manager becoming a real manager. That's not the case.
No,
he thought it. He got there. Of course, when he was at Ramsey, he still didn't have his license, the pro license in France. So they were paying a fee, a penalty basically every week because of that. Then he got that, moved to Lens. It wasn't easy, to become the manager of Lens, because they were coming out of a good period. Took over there, they had an okay season, but he decided to return to England to take up the job at Southampton because I think his partner had some health problems that were publicly explained. His partner is a non-journalist. So he returned to the UK. It didn't work out for him at Southampton, but he earned the opportunity to manage Southampton with the goal of getting them back to the Premier League. Eventually, it didn't work, It didn't. He had a good squad. They have a very good squad for me, but it didn't work. It happens in football. Maybe it will work, but or won't work for Edward Steele. But give him a chance, And so connecting to what I also want to talk about to end this podcast, if you are in a position as a pundit to talk about something, inform yourself, do some research. I cannot accept from a pundit an answer like, "Oh, I don't know him. I don't know him." You are there in order to inform people, to give your opinion to people. And your opinion cannot be, "I don't know him." Honestly, you have all the time in the world to inform yourself about a certain manager. And it doesn't excuse the fact that the majority of pundits are former professionals. In order to, it doesn't excuse them the fact that they are former professional to not inform themselves, because now they are not there as former professionals, just to talk about situations in the game. They are there to give their whole opinion on that. And inform yourself on the background of a manager. There's videos, there's interviews, there's PCs. You can make calls in order to inform yourself, about a certain individual in the game. With internet, there's infinite tools, to inform yourself. When I go on TV, and I'm not a former professional, of course, but when I go on TV to do punditry, I go there with endless piece of papers. Like I have it here in order to show you. Of course, you won't understand a single thing with that, But like to when I went on TV 2 weeks ago, just to show you very quickly, like this. Of course, it's not a good. It's not a good writing, my writing, but look at all the notes that I had,
Yeah,
when I
exactly.
was on TV, because I prepare myself for that.
Mhm.
People, I really like when people say, "Oh, Andrea has knowledge." I like that. I appreciate that. But that knowledge, it's not a talent. It's like I don't
Hard
want
work.
to sleep. I don't want to sleep on
Mm.
that. I want to learn even more. I want to learn even more. I like to do that. I like to inform myself. I like to really go if I don't know something. I really like to learn and then
Mm.
make an opinion after seeing stuff about that. So I cannot accept, honestly. Even here, there was a time when fans can send messages. There was another one that said, fans are asking about, are the club gonna sign a new midfielder? And this one said, are they asking that to me? I don't know. I cannot accept, to be fair, a pundit, be it a professional player or a journalist. I cannot accept I don't know, or I don't know him, I don't know the
Mm.
situation as an answer. Honestly, I
Mm.
cannot accept that, because you are in a privileged position. Like even me and you. Of course we are doing a podcast. We are not on a TV show in this case.
Mhm.
But when we do that, we prepare, we discuss about topics to
Yeah.
talk about. We inform. So sometimes there's topics that you propose that maybe I don't have a proper knowledge about, that I inform myself on them, and I'm
Uh-huh.
sure you do the same as always.
Mhm.
But we are in a privileged position too, because we actually have a number of people, like the Italian writer Manzoni used to write
Mhm.
in Promessi Sposi, my limited number of readers. In this case, our limited number of viewers, because we have them. We want to give our opinion and actually be prepared when we talk about something, not just make up things or say, I don't know about that, let's skip to the next topic. Because
Mm.
even us, with a small podcast, we are in a privileged position because we have people that listen to what we say. We can
Mm.
influence people. This is a power, honestly. This is something that
Mhm.
shouldn't be treated with the uh,
100%.
in a different way, in a superficial way. It's
Mm.
good when people are listening to you, want to learn from you, want to exchange opinions with you, because it's a privileged position, even this one. So you should be able to build an opinion, not just say, "Oh, I don't know him, so he
Mhm.
shouldn't be good." No way,
Yep.
no way.
100%, mate. Well done. Well said. Fully agree with
Thanks.
you. It's true. You're right. Put if it's your passion and you care about it, and your intention when you have a platform, and I'm talking about again, it can be on YouTube, that can be as a pundit, that can be as a leader in a team. You are influencing people. That's my job every day when I'm teaching young kids. I'm so aware that I have influence on everything I say on them. That's important to me. I don't want to say things that could influence them negatively. I like to be honest with them about football. I like to tell them the truths of it. I like to tell them, what needs to happen for you to improve. But it's such an important thing that you influence people, right? When you have that power and you've been given that respect and that kind of chance to influence people. And this is the whole point in Troydini and a lot of other comments, that a lot of people will see that and go, "Oh, so this isn't going to work then." Why? Go watch a game. Go watch some highlights. Go find something on him. Go find anything about what he's done. Or this is for anyone, by the way. This is why when we sign a player, I always say I've not heard of him, so it's rubbish. Right?
Yeah,
Well, of course you haven't, because you've not looked. I've not heard a lot of players we sign. People think I know everyone. I don't. When we link to them, I do my research. That's how it works. I don't know every player. I do my research. When we're linked, right, I'll research, try find the games, one or two games, look at his stats, read some stuff about him from articles, and there you go, you've got an idea. That's how it's done. And I just wanted to bring this up on Will still, because this is what earning an opportunity is when you're not an ex-pro. So he obviously came through Preston North End, the academy, but then he had to leave. He left, went to Belgium to try and forge a career in Belgium, and he was a video analyst, which is, not very highly stated at most clubs, quite disrespected in a lot. You're just a video analyst, you just clip stuff up for the manager, Did that for a few years, as you can see, in the lower leagues as well in Belgium. Then got an opportunity. I think it's Liers. I think it's pronounced Liers. Yeah. Got an opportunity. And I think it was the director of football, or it was someone higher up in the club, who actually, they sat their manager and they suggested this scout we've got. He knows what he's talking about. And everyone was like, what? He's a scout. Went there. And in 8 games, got 2.63 points per game.
Yeah.
Now,
as a caretaker too.
Yeah, as a caretaker. Everything he did to that point, from this point down here, he's earned through good work, consistency, hard work. He didn't get it given to him. He didn't start at a top club. He had to work his way through it. All that success. Again, as you can see, got his first manager job here, his first actual manager job that wasn't caretaker based. Learned from that, became the assistant manager at Stade Rennais. Then went to Standard Liège as an assistant manager. And then again, finally,
Reims.
like before, got the main job at Reims. And that's where he kind of made his name, playing some good football, getting a lot out of every player. Then got an up move to Lens. Again, pretty decent spell. Then went to Southampton, didn't work out. But people have to realise, in 12 years, to get from a video analyst to the first team manager of Southampton takes so much hard work and dedication and self-belief when you're not an ex-pro. So difficult. Not many people, if any, will do that quick. It's seriously impressive. So I just wanted to show that because it's important.
No, did well to show that, because it turns out that it wasn't by chance. And even looking at his brother, we looked at Watford managers. Of course, people joke at the number of managers that they had, but they had Marco Silva, they had Sean Dyche before he moved to Burnley. Mm-hmm. They had good managers eventually that had good careers, like Ike Sanchez, Flores. Avi Gracia, the first spell was good there. Then when he returned, he wasn't. We know that firsthand. I think he under his reign was the first Leeds I've ever seen. To be fair, even worse than the other managers like in the Championship, like Okadai and Milanic, that infamous period. But it's not good for me that people label out a manager. Like I give you another example with Reggiana. Now they have sacked the manager and they've brought the assistant manager of Alessandro Nesta. In his first head coach job since 2007, when he was sacked in the Romanian second division.
Right.
My opinion is that they didn't need to sign a manager that was out of a first manager job, not assistant manager, since 2007, because in a relegation battle you need a more experienced one knowing the reins. But I'm still willing to give him a chance, because I don't think it was the good decision to sack the previous manager, because the situation under Rick wasn't mainly his fault. The squad was not assembled well, and in transfer market they lost 4 key players that weren't properly replaced for me. But I'm still willing to give the new manager a chance, because I want to see his style of football and then give an assessment about him, not like, oh, was this that was still coming out of nowhere, I don't like that. Just, at least say I don't know much about him. It's just managed in Belgium, and he's been known for playing a 3-5-2 mainly. So maybe Watford can play with this player in this position. They can adapt and play in that. Like, you can elaborate on that. Usually plays with a 3-5-2. I think Watford have the squad built for that, or they will have to adjust, playing this player out of position. They can, if they want to play with more offensive, they can play with Bove and another more defensive-minded one, Louza, for example. I don't know if he's still there, but I think he's, Imran Louza, the Moroccan one. And also the other one, Mamae, what's his name? They have a very young player doing very well there. And they also Vata, still another good player. Last season was very good with Watford. I'm not following the Championship as much this season, but they still have a good scouting network. And eventually, people joke about the number of managers, but you know that they are owned by the Pozzo family. So if you look at Udinese, the perfect example is, of course, the Italian press are even more picky than the British one. You know, last season, at the start of the season, Udinese signed Costa Runiaic, and he was managing in Poland, Legia Warsaw, I think it was the club.
Right.
People said in Italy, who's this manager out of nowhere? No one has ever heard of him. No one has ever heard of him. You know, like Udinese are making a terrible appointment. He doesn't know what Serie A is. He's only managed in Poland, and before that, I'm gonna tell you the leagues to give you more context. You know, was managing 2 years in Legia Warsaw. Before that, Pogo Szczecin, always in Poland. Brief spell with 8060 Munich. Then before Kaiserslautern, Duisburg, Darmstadt. In the German lower leagues, you know, then Wiesbaden, second team, and basically that was his career, you know. So they were saying like, who have they appointed, you know? And if you look at Aroniaic, actually, he was one of the most performing managers last season in Serie A because he brought his style of football to Udinese. Now Udinese are lined in the league this season without Lucca and Tovan, who were the key players last season. They have changed a lot, but they are like Kenan Davis, doing very well now, he's injured. Zaniolo, they attracted him, Zaniolo, because he didn't have a great season last season between Atalanta and Fiorentina, but he's still a good player. He decided to go to Udinese. Kellenkamp, Atta, signed with a good scouting network. There's Christensen, Solé. Then they have a lot of players that used to play in England, like Kamara. There's also from Germany, Ezibue. They are built for his style of football, and now they are ninth in the league. 9 wins, 5 draws, 10 losses, 32 points, 2 above Italian Cup winners and the Europa League team Bologna this season.
Nice.
So give chances to a manager. Another good example is Carlos Cuesta. He was area of Parma start of the season. Like people said, they are pointing a 30-year-old because he's our age. You know, he was born in 1996 or in 1995, 31 years of age. You know, youngest manager in the league. People were saying he's just got there because of Arteta. You know, he's been recommended by him to the American owner. You know, he won't last in Serie A top league. Eventually, he struggled at the start of the season. He really struggled because he wanted to play in a similar style to Arsenal. Now he's understood that they need to play more defensive-minded, more compact with more physical player because they just have a good striker, Pellegrino, and behind him they have like the desert. There's no good defensive players behind them. There's no good defensive players, honestly. So now he's playing a different formation, and now we have 26 points, 13 on the table. Fiorentina in 18, the first place in the final, in the bottom 3, they have 18 points. So Parma are now steering the ship, you know, in this sense. They won the last one, but previously had 2 draws and 2 losses. So ups and downs, but at least they are not threatened right now by relegation because the squad honestly is relegation level, to be fair. Apart from 1 or 2 players, you know, Mandela Keita, I think will move to the Premier League and the season. Circati and Pellegrino and Valeri too is a good player, but Brixi too, the other wing back. But honestly, offensively, they don't. They have just signed Strefezza from Olympiacos, but they don't have a lot of good players. Amqvist, Ondrejka, Oristano, not a good offensive department up front, you know.
Yeah, I'll just Carlos Cuesta. Sorry, I'm just in the middle of coughing.
Yeah.
Carlos Cuesta is a great example as well. As you know, I told you, I think it was last year, he's a guy I really like, and he's one to watch in
I
the
remember.
next few years for me. Really good brain. I've listened to interviews from him, and the way he sees player development and how to get the best out of players and all this kind of side of it is a real good people person. He's good with people. He's good with individuals. He's good at understanding them. He'll go far in football. Carlos Cuesta, and again, another player that obviously retired or didn't have a long playing career. He's 30 now, and he's been in management since. He's a youth coach at Santa Catalina. I've said that Catalina.
Santa Catalina, yeah.
Catalina, yeah. It's hard because can't see it. But in 2010. So this guy's took the early decision in his career to go, right, I'm not going to be a footballer. I'm going to be a coach. And it's working, and it's earning that opportunity to get to the point where he went through Atletico Madrid. He got the opportunity there. He went to Juventus. Then obviously got the role with in Arsenal. He's had a few roles at Arsenal. He obviously then became the assistant to Arteta, and he's now got his first job. And like you said, adapting in the job, learning on the job. And he's 30 years old. These are the type of people that, look, coming from my perspective, where I've not played at a very good level, especially not professional or, paid. These are the people that I look at and go, if they can do it, why can't people like me? Right? These are the people that I base what I want to do on, because they've done it from a similar position to me. They've started out as scouts or analysts. There is a path. It's hard, and you will be looked down upon a lot. You'll be thrown away a lot. I don't know who he is, never heard of him. But it's a path, and you just got to stick to it and believe in yourself. And it's the same, probably same for you, Andre. In anything you do, you earn respect by being consistent, getting results, being good at your job. It's the same. So, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Another good example is Christian Kivu, actually, because talking about Parma, but now at Inter Milan, he had just managed in the interview teams, did a great job there, developed a lot of players, P. Esposito, one of them. Now he's also starting to trust these players, the younger ones at Inter Milan. They will bring back probably Filip Stankovic from Club Brugge. They have a buyback clause. Yeah. But everybody said when he signed from Parma, very tricky. They need to stay up last season because they were threatened by relegation in a worse way compared to this season. So they appointed, when they sacked Pecchia, they appointed Christian Kivu. And eventually they reached safety like the final day of the season in Bergamo against Atalanta. But Kivu then went to Inter Milan, and now he's doing great. League leaders, playing great football, especially after the Simone Inzaghi era. The fact that they got to two Champions League finals and won the title, the Scudetto once under Simone Inzaghi, is a testament of his work. It was very difficult for a new manager to come in and continue that job. Especially with an aging squad. Because last season, let's not forget that they had as the players coming out of the bench for Lautaro and Thuram, they had Arnautovic and Correa.
Yeah.
So and this season they have Pio Esposito and Anju Boni, another one that we mentioned in the past when he was at Parma. So actually, see, Kivu has continued that job. They have signed Petar Sucic. Pio Esposito is getting minutes, Boni is playing well. They signed Akanji, of course, experience. Bisek is getting more minutes compared to what he used to be with Inzaghi, and Kivu is doing a good job. Nobody could have predicted that, but there were people criticizing the decision to appoint a manager who just had managed a top team in a top tier, a team in the top tier, Parma, for 6 months. And after 6 months being hired by Inter, they said, they're bringing him because they want to spend money this season in the squad, so they want a manager that they know because it worked for them in the teams, and they want to have a manager that can be managed, influenced by the club, by the director of football, etc. It turns out it's not like that because he's playing great, he's adapting well tactically. So you just have to give them a chance, after you give them a chance.
Of course. There's loads of examples. We could keep going, just to bring it back to a Leeds kind of perspective. Reni Maric is one that I've
Yeah.
liked for a long time. When he became our assistant manager, I was really excited. I did video on it. I was like, oh, because if you listen to it, he's been on a few podcasts, and if you listen to, and he's done a lot of writing as well about football. Again, a guy that didn't have a professional career, took the hard route, took the long route to be respected, and now assistant manager at Bayern Munich at 33. So obviously, I've been in the Premier League as well with Leeds, and I still believe he should have been the person that should have took the team after Jesse Marsh was sacked.
Yeah.
But the club didn't make that decision. But he's another one as well. I don't know what he'll want to do. He might not want to be head coach. I think I listened to an interview on the Training Crown Guru podcast. I think it was about 18 months ago. I can't remember. It might have been slightly longer. But he spoke about, he does want to coach. He does want to be head coach, but he's not going to rush it. He wants to be ready. He wants the right opportunity. Didn't say he wouldn't come back to England as well in the future. So you never know, if we want a project.
I hope.
Yeah.
I hope we'll see him in England, honestly, because he's a good football mind for me. But of course, he's unproven at the top level, so he can go in a good way or in a bad way. But someone will need to give him a chance, actually. So, because every single manager, like you mentioned Ancelotti before, it was actually at Reggiana. That was the place when he started his career. He was about to get sacked after 9 games because they were in the relegation battle. He was about to get sacked, by Reggiana in his first job. They decided to keep him, and he got them promoted at the end of the season to Serie A. So look at the turning point of that. Another example can be on Maric. Yeah.
And another one from Leeds, Skubala. If anyone's not seen what Skubala is doing with Lincoln right now in League One, they're second in League One, and they have, I think, one of the bottom kind of 8 budgets in the league. Second, playing really good football, scoring loads of goals. And again, Skubala didn't have a playing career. He came through education. He was at Loughborough. He went through 5-a-side football. Football is great because there's so many different minds that can work. You don't just have to be an ex-pro that knows how the elite work. It doesn't work like that. There's so many different types of people that can be a good football manager and a good football coach. And if you have the right environment around you, and you have the right people around you as well, other coaches to help you out in certain areas where they might know more than you, you can be successful. So yeah, just to bring it back to kind of a Leeds perspective, look at Maric, who's doing really well, obviously, but Skubala, who's actually doing it in League One, second with Lincoln. Credit coming from a non-playing background, but yeah.
Best manager that we had that season.
Yeah.
2022-2023, the best manager that we had was Skubala. It was actually when he was appointed caretaker with the because there were 2 caretakers at the start,
Yeah, well, I forgot the other guy. I forgot what he's called.
Because there was Marsh, then they announced Chris Armas as his assistant manager. Then Armas basically lasted with Marsh. It was at least for 1 week, because after that Marsh was sacked. Marsh and Armas they went. Then now Skubala and Spanish name. I'll look at that now. But yeah, Skubala, actually, these 2 games against Man United, they were prepared well, honestly. Of course, there were still those patterns, but the first one at Old Trafford, it was a good game. Had we managed it better, in terms of being in the game mentally, we would have won that. But eventually they went back into that. So yeah, I was looking, actually, it was Skubala, but yeah, they just say Skubala, but there was also another one. But yeah, going forward, we'll look at that after this. Tell us in the comment which was. I think it was Gajardo, something like that. Not the River Plate one, but something like that. Yeah, there were 2. There was a Spanish one, a Spanish one, but I cannot remember who it was. But yeah, to finish this one, actually, I want to talk about what everybody's talking about in England, of course, in the space on X, everywhere, basically. Talksport, then of course the podcast where Eni Aluko went on, So to give you a resume, basically, Eni Aluko, former player and former Lioness, of course, turned pundit, like it says here in the Daily Mail article, made the headlines again, doubling down on the view that male pundits are blocking opportunities in the women's game. That
Mm.
She did that months ago too, when she said that regarding Ian Bright. First and foremost, I will give my opinion after we go through this. She reignited their war with the Arsenal legend, took aim at former Premier League footballer Nedu Munua on the 90s Baby Show podcast. Appeared to take issue with Bright and Onua being two of the 6 pundits across ITV and BBC during the Women's Euros final last summer, while she and fellow Lionesses legend Farah Williams were not involved. I saw that clip on this part. She was basically saying, I have this number of caps. Farah Williams has this number of caps with England. We were there in the stands while there were this and this individual and these former players with less caps than us doing punditry. Like, I want to be very straight on this one, to be fair, on this point, on this specific point. The number of caps that you have don't earn you a place in punditry, because it's your talent and what you say that earns you that place, to be fair, men or women, regardless of your gender, honestly, to be fair, because I've seen great male pundits doing coverage of women's football and great women's pundits and journalists doing coverage in men's football. Laura Woods is a great presenter, for example.
Very good, yeah.
You also saw other former players, like Jill Scott is involved in the overlap week in and week out. She's great. She's a lot of fun too.
When Emma Hayes, when Emma Hayes used to do punditry before she got the US job as well, she was very good. She did it on men's games. She was very, very good. A very good footballing brain.
Yeah, absolutely. I remember her actually in the men Euros, that we won, and she was good.
Yeah, very
in that
good.
one. She was good, and she was there with Ian Wright too, because I remember them celebrating after you beat Germany, But yeah, so I don't think it's down to number of caps that you have, because there's great players that have tried to build a managerial career, like Clarence Seedorf, for example, was a great player. Managerial career, he wasn't great as a manager, so he stopped his managerial career. Now, as a pundit, he's great. It's great. So, being a good player with, for example, 200 caps doesn't make you straight away a good manager. And as well, if you are a good player with 200 caps, that doesn't make you automatically a pundit that should be there, because out there, maybe it's about being good with words, being good with the way you speak, what you say. If people like you and like what you say, and your producers like what you say, they will want to give you that gig, that spot. So this is not related to the number of caps. When she said we were in the stands, me and Farah Williams were not involved, and others were there. I don't get a reason. I respect what she says, actually, because you need to respect when someone speaks out. But I don't get the sense about this, to be fair. She also claimed that Bright didn't fight her corner when ITV decided not to extend her contract as a pundit in what she described as the most difficult time in my career. Was he supposed to do that? Like, it's the producers and TV choice who to keep. There were pundits that were let go by Sky Sports too in the past. I haven't seen those pundits say similar things like, for example, Carragher and Neville needed to step off for us and fight our case. If you have your own case, you need to fight your case with the producers and the TV. If you want to get reasons about the decisions they're going to make. It's like when you are at the end of your contract with a football club, you don't call your teammates, your veterans, to say, oh, I want to stay, please have a word with the director of football for me, put in a good word in that sense, Then she appeared on TalkSport, of course, everybody saw that, basically the row with Simon Jordan. And she said, a toxic space for me, fighting not now to just even have an opinion. Basically on TalkSport, as far as expertise is concerned, when I listen to her as a pundit, that's what Simon Jordan said. I don't think she's particularly enlightening or nominated or engaging or charismatic, or sometimes comes across particularly likable. Basically, they had the raw on that one. People can read
on
here,
that. that's important as well. Like, you can either bring tactical knowledge. Like, I always like to listen when he's serious, Thierry Henry, when they give him actual serious things to talk about. I really enjoy his breakdown of the game. Really good. Same with Carragher as well. No, he's he gets stick, but when he's actually doing the tactical stuff, it's actually quite intriguing on Monday Night Football. When he's actually took time to research what he's talking about and he's breaking the game down, it's really good. Or the other side of that is the Michael Richards side of it, the personality, the charisma. People like to watch him because he's funny and he's got energy and he's got charisma. For me, you have to be one or the other, and that's part of the job. You can't be a football manager if you're bad at being a football manager. You can't just be given the opportunity and keep giving opportunities. You got to be good at it, and you need certain characteristics to be good at something. And I'd be a terrible builder because I'm weak. I wouldn't then complain that other builders are, getting more opportunities because they're bigger and stronger than me. These other builders.
Yeah.
I'm a little frail human. I'm trying to change that. Every job has different characteristics. If you're a TV presenter, a children's TV presenter, and you have zero charisma or energy, no one will watch, and you'll be replaced with someone who has energy and charisma.
Exactly.
So this is the same for punditry. You need to have a certain thing. So yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And also, I think she doesn't need to take everything directly at her. People make choices, TV make choices. It's like when you were in a team, in a football team, there were better players than you, worse players than you, and in the end, the management of the team made the choices. It's the same in TV, honestly. It's not something personal. Sometimes you need to make good decisions. The decisions that you think are good for the team, and in this case, the TV. So I'm sure she's a good person too. So even the fact that she's also an ambassador for UNICEF, for example. So it's not something that I think is directed at her personally. It's just the TV has made different choices. Like we want to take this pundits forward for the new project, the new era, the new project of the TV. So of course, it's like in football where you change players in the team and you have to let other players go. And also the fact that in the past it was these decisions were linked, but also the consideration around there were linked with themes like racism, something like that. I don't think it's racism, honestly, because people, first and foremost for me, should be in a specific position. Football, for example, in this case, football punditry, for the talent, regardless of their color of the skin. Honestly, it's about talent. And their gender too. If a male or woman, white, black, that doesn't matter. What it matters is what they say on TV. For me, that's what it matters the most. So I don't think it's down to racism, honestly, because there's also other good presenters. Like Kate Scott is a good presenter. Laura Woods is a good presenter. They have different skin color. Anita Sante, when she does punditry, she's very good.
Gabby Logan.
So again, Gabby Logan, it's not down to that. It's down about actually from to what they say. And of course, people may like Eni Aluko more than Laura Woods, and other people may like Laura Woods more than Eni Aluko. It's down to people, in the end. But in the end, who's making the decisions there is it's the TV, basically. So you just have to respect that. If you're good enough, another TV will come calling, or a podcast or a radio show, that would happen. Like Laura Woods was doing very well when she was doing some part-time. It wasn't her mainstay job, on Champions League, I think it was. But their main job was Talk Sport. She was there every day. She was that good that eventually she had to quit the radio show and focus on the TV, and she's doing great there. So even Kelly Cates, for example, there's also a good podcast, like Millie Bright and Liz Fan, Rachel Daly. Steph Houghton, when I've heard her speaking, as a pundit, very good, and so it's not down to that for me too, I don't get these quotes from her, honestly, to be fair. It's down to, I don't think it's a personal crusade against her, honestly. Just made that decision, and if you're good enough, another show, another TV, another radio, or another media, because there's also columnism, when you write your column on the paper, like Brian Clough used to do in the day, will come calling eventually, will call you eventually.
Yeah, so like this is it. Like Eni Aluko was a very good. I remember watching when I used to watch England. When she was playing, she always scored without fail. She always scored. She was a really good footballer. It's. I think from her perspective, the biggest mistake was going against Ian Wright, who,
Yeah,
and not everyone wants to, but most women in football, whether that's professional or non-professional, will all have a big affinity and a big respect to Ian Wright because he's done so much since he retired. And even before that, there's videos of him, to speaking to the England team when he was at Arsenal, the women's team. He's done so much for women's sports. And to criticize him in the way he did just made even people that were probably your friends go, come on, what are you doing?
yeah,
That's not the... But then to double down on it, for me,
yeah,
that's the mistake. Ian Wright, again, he's a good pundit. Everyone likes to listen to what Ian Wright has to say. He speaks well on every topic he talks about, whether that's personal things, whether that's wider society things, whether that's football. Ian Wright is on the money. He's honest. He's down to earth. He's lived through football in harder times. He's now a pundit in these times. He's got a very good knowledge of everything. He's always been close to the women's game. He's an ambassador for it. He does a lot of work with the women's game. To criticize him, I think, was the biggest mistake for me.
yeah,
I think that once you did that, you lost a lot of friends in this space, including probably a lot of women pundits as well, because at the end of the day, it should be, like you said, are you a good pundit and can you bring amazing tactical knowledge? I don't think Aluko did, personally. That's just my opinion. And let me just clarify, there's a lot of male pundits that are terrible, in my opinion, that shouldn't
yeah,
also be on TV. Obviously, there's loads of them out there, now, but we're talking about this specific case because it's in the news, but there's also a lot of pundits that I hear every now and again and I go, I want them on more. They speak a lot of sense. It's about personal preference. Some love Micah Richards, that style. Micah Richards seems like a great guy, but I enjoy, as I am, the more deeper tactical discussions in punditry when they're doing Monday Night Football and they really break down a topic. I love that. And, yeah, it's about personal preference as well. When you're a pundit, the people are the ones watching. If they don't like your style, what you're saying, if you don't bring charisma or any deep tactical knowledge, they're not going to enjoy it. Eni Aluko, unfortunately, a lot of people just didn't like what she had to say. But there's a lot of male presenters out there who people don't like what they have to say. I don't like a lot of them. That's why I don't really watch anymore, to be honest. I think it's dropped. There's also a lot of females in the football space, in punditry, that say a lot of good things and do tactical breakdowns or even speak about the game, their personal experience, that I love listening to. It's about personal preference. And it's just not worked for in punditry, in my opinion. But
yeah. I agree with you on Brighty, honestly, because he's a person that is very down to earth.
yeah,
I'm not comparing, honestly, backgrounds because that's not what we're going to do. I think both of them have their backgrounds, but of course, the story of Ian Bright is well known. Everybody remembers that clip of him, Mr. Pigden, you are alive. When he saw his school teacher, the first one, he had a tough background, so people know about that. And can relate to that because eventually he spoke many times about his background, growing up and the way he helped, especially after his career, other people that came from different backgrounds and different neighborhoods, different boroughs, difficult boroughs, in London. And he was involved, the fact that even after his career, we've seen him on documentaries, following his nephew, giving light to women's football. He was one of the first former players. He's a legend at Arsenal, of course. He's always treated every player of the women's team in the same amount of consideration that is treated players playing for the men's team. That's not guaranteed, especially in football when people can say it has changed, but we still need to go a long way because now women footballers, of course, like for example, just talking about Arsenal, Katie McCabe, Alessia Russo, there's Caitlin Ford, Luther Wobbemoy, Leah Williamson. Now people know about these players, because now they have, like for example, Leah Williamson, Luther Wobbemoy. You know more about these characters, because now they have a space. The investment in women's football has grown. There's more shows about it, the most coverage, They are starting to play, for example, Arsenal at the Emirates more. They started in the UWCL. Now they're doing that in the League Two. But especially through the investment of the club, you know more about these players. But Ian Wright was doing that before the industry came to do that. There's also a clip of him greeting the players of the England national teams, in 1990, in the early 90s. So he was one of the first to do that, and I've been reading online on him contributing without saying a word, publicly, because when you do something that you care about, it doesn't need to be shown to the public, because you do that for goodwill, not for publicity. But it's been said that by people who actually were led by him, he's covered costs for women's footballers in lower leagues, paid for surgeries for them, contributed. So he's a person that always was down to earth, and he's always involved, to in the activities of Arsenal. He's always he always went to women's games, under 21s, the men's team. Is someone that's really involved about Arsenal, but also women's football in general, because even with the Lionesses, he was heavily involved, and everyone, I think, in the women's games appreciate him, because he was one of the first actually to give them that spot that they wanted. Now they have that spot because there's investment. Look at the Euros last summer, great Euros, every stadium basically full, a lot of ADVs, sponsors, big sponsors. Even at the Olympics, we know more about, we know about Modric, for example, his history in men's football. We know about Zlatan, his history. Now we know about Aitana. We know about Trinity Rodman, for example. We know more about who these players are as individuals. We get to know more about them. Irma was one of the first to actually to do that, so it wasn't wise to do that to him, honestly, because he doesn't reply, and even silence is an answer in certain times. Like Laura Wood said, the quote of Eni Aluko, the women's game should be by women for women, is one of the most damaging phrases I've heard. It will not only drag women's sports backwards, it will drag women's punditry in all forms of the game backwards. I completely agree, because there's even, not just pundits that I mentioned, even Jem Beatty, for example. Anna Cash is a great presenter for me, the sister of Matty Cash. Alex Bailey is another good interviewer, content creator too. So there's good people in the space, people that know to do their jobs, both in men's and women's football. So it's good to see actually these pundits interchanging, between men and women, because it's, in terms of coverage, it gives them equal coverage. Of course, people consistently compare, men's football with women's football, like saying, yeah, it's boring, women's football, because it's not football. There's no talent, no skill. I want to ask a simple question, why do people watch both men and women basketball and watch both men and women volleyball? When they do that, do they expect the same on the pitch? No, but they appreciate both despite the differences. For example, men's volleyball and men's basketball are more physical. In men's volleyball, there's more power with the spike. In women's volleyball, the rhythm is lower, but you see more the technical gesture by the players. Same with basketball. Caitlin Clark, the talent she has compared to a LeBron James, is completely different. The level of the game. But you can appreciate both. Why can people do that with women's football and men's football? They are the same sport, but they have different levels, of course. But you can appreciate both despite their key differences,
Yeah. And having worked in both as well, I've worked in women's football, and I mean, a lot of work goes into it. When you're doing the analyst, when you're training, it's the same stuff. You do exactly the same thing. It's the same work. It's the same dedication. It's the same passion. It's the same mentality. It's that winning mentality, the team mentality. Everything's the same. So, yeah, they look different when it's played on the pitch. That's the only difference. It's football. They're both entertaining. Some games can be boring. Some games can be entertaining. That's football. Whether you're a man or a woman, You can play in a women's game that's boring. You can play in a men's game that's boring. You can play in a women's game that's 6-4. You can play in a men's game that's 6-4. You know,
Yeah,
it's that's why I love football. It comes back to what I said before about anyone can be in football. Everyone's different, and it's the same in the women's game, and I guess in punditry as well. You know, any individual can talk on football. Football's football. At the end of the day, men can speak
yeah,
on the women's game. Women can speak on the men's game. It's good to have people from a different perspective talking about this or talking about that. You don't want the same 4 people on a punditry panel that have all got exactly the same background, exactly the same experience. That bores me. You know, and this is, again, I open the punditry up to people that are scouts or analysts that have been around that. They'll have a completely different view on football. I want to hear their thoughts as well. So it's good to have different people with different backgrounds, different understandings of the game. You know, there's things that are different in women's football to men's football, you know, which the women can speak about when they talk about the men's game and maybe the differences and how that can translate. It's football. It's fascinating. People are people. And it's good to learn and understand others.
yeah.
But yeah, I think, should we, do you want to got us to say, Andre, before we end on that?
Yeah, no, just to finish this off, this debate, I think the one that epitomized, perfectly what we meant was Bonucci, when he so great, he did a tackle on Tony Dogon, and they both were okay, after that, but yeah, people just said, no, he was too harsh, but eventually, football is for everyone, like you pointed out. So yeah, but you see, I think we covered a lot of topics and interesting ones today. So
Yeah.
more than 2 hours for people, always with trying to be objective, and be us. I think it pays off in the end, because everyone can say, follow the wind in a certain sense, the trendings. But to actually elaborate on that is the most important. I think in a good debate, without berating people, insulting people, it's good to have a debate on these topics, So we'll see in the end what football will teach us in the coming weeks, on all these topics that we covered: the relegation battle, Leeds form, the debate about women's football, and we should cover it. We'll see. It was a great chat, man. Always,
Great, mate.
always good, and always a pleasure to. So that I just want to say sorry because at times today I don't know why. My my business, in the last couple of days. So probably at times I had the Italian kicking in. So I think my English wasn't that great today. So sorry
It's been
to the
fine, mate. I've
people.
been coughing for 2 hours, so don't worry about
Yeah.
it. Hardly speak.
By the way, actually, I want to say also this. I see a lot of people, not a lot of people, sorry, 2 or 3 comments, about some of us whistling or something. If that happened, we didn't notice, to be fair. But I know that in Manchester it's raining consistently. It's been doing the same here. So if we have a cold and that translates to that, we didn't notice. So sorry for that in that case.
Yeah.
But yeah. But absolutely, I'm sorry for that if that happened. But anyway, we'll wrap it up. Always a pleasure, man, and hopefully we'll be talking. Oh, actually, we will not be talking next week because the pod won't be on next week because Loki is away with work commitments. So I won't do that on my own because, of course, this podcast is me and him. So we'll probably have guests, like I said, in the future, but it will always be me, Loki, and in that case, another guest. If Loki is not here, I'm not doing it. So I'll be waiting like in that, like in Waiting for Godot, in that novel, by now people will berate me. Beckett?
I have no idea, mate.
Okay, but people will find out eventually. I think that's the way we'll close that with the Waiting for Godot. Yeah. Have a good day, lads. Hopefully a good result at the weekend. Bye-bye, and always marching on together. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.